We've all been there, right? Staring at a multiple-choice question that just feels off. But have you ever really stopped to think about what makes a question good or bad? Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the hidden craft of making these tests, and we'll start with a question that pretty much breaks all the rules.
Take a good look at this question. Read it through. Does it feel a little clunky, maybe confusing, or just plain poorly written? If you're kind of hesitating or feeling frustrated, trust me, you are not alone. And there is a very, very good reason for that.
And that really gets to the heart of the problem. A question like the one we just saw, it completely fails at its most basic job. It's not a fair test of what you know. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to figure out exactly why it fails and, more importantly, how to build a much, much better one.
To fix something that's broken, you've got to know how it's supposed to work in the first place. And it turns out every multiple-choice question is built from a few key components. So let's break them down.
First up is what's called the stem. You can think of this as the whole foundation of the question. It's the part that actually asks the question or states the problem. A good stem sets a really clear, direct task for you. Everything else is built on top of this.
Next, we've got the key. Now, this one's simple. It's the right answer. In a really well-designed question, there is one and only one totally correct key. No tricks, no which is the best answer, just the single right one.
And that brings us to the distractors. Now this is where things get really interesting. These are the wrong answers, of course, but they aren't just random. Oh no. They are carefully, almost scientifically, crafted to look correct to someone who doesn't quite know the material. This is where the real art and science of question design kicks in.
Okay, so if the stem is our foundation, it has to be rock solid. Let's focus on that next. We're going to look at how to write a question that is perfectly clear, fair, and get straight to the point.
So here's the absolute acid test for a good stem. You should be able to read the question and know exactly what's being asked, maybe even have an answer in your head before you even look at the options. If you have to read the answers just to figure out what the question means, that stem has already failed.
Now here is a golden rule. Our brains can really get twisted up by negative words like not. It just adds this extra mental hurdle you have to jump over. But a simple rephrase like putting except at the end makes the whole task so much clearer and you're less likely to make a simple mistake.
And this is a fantastic example of cutting out the fluff. That extra phrase, a period of great change, is what experts call window dressing. It adds literally nothing to the question and might even confuse someone. A direct, focused stem is always, always better.
All right, we have our clear question. Now for the really fun part, crafting the wrong answers. This is less about art and way more about science. The science of building distractors that actually work.
You know, great distractors all share a few key traits. They have to seem believable, right? They need to flow grammatically from the stem, just like the right answer does. They shouldn't stand out by being way longer or shorter than the others. And, this is crucial, all the options should belong to the same category of thing.
I mean, this is a perfect, if a little silly, example. Options like a horse or William Shakespeare, they aren't real distractors, they're basically joke answers that you eliminate instantly. But Buzz Aldrin and Michael Collins, they were on the exact same Apollo 11 mission. Those are truly plausible distractors that actually test if you know who is first.
Now there's a common complaint you always hear, right? That multiple choice questions only test basic memorization. But you know what? That's only true for badly written questions. A great one can do so much more.
Think about it. A well-designed question can actually test different levels of thinking. Sure, it can check if you can recall a fact, like a date, but it can also ask you to explain an idea, or apply a rule to a whole new situation, or even analyze the connections between different ideas. It's actually a surprisingly flexible tool when you know how to use it.
Okay, theory time is over. We've covered the anatomy, the rules for writing good stems, and the science behind smart distractors. It is time to put it all together and finally fix that awful question we started with.
Okay, here it is again, our patient on the operating table. Let's diagnose the problems. First, that stem has classic window dressing. That important centers of government bit does nothing. Second, using not makes it clunky and negative. And finally, just look at option D. The capital of Australia isn't a city, it's a description. It's totally inconsistent with the others.
So first things first, let's clean up that stem. We're going to snip out that irrelevant phrase about governments. Then, we'll flip the negative question around to use the much clearer except format. Just doing that makes it a whole lot better.
Next up, we have to fix those answer choices. They all need to be the same type of thing. They all need to be actual city names. So we'll replace that clunky phrase, the capital of Australia, with the actual name of the city, making it parallel with all the other options.
And ta-da! Here's the result. Just look at how clean and direct this is now. The STEM gives you a simple, clear problem. All the options are homogeneous. They're all capital cities, and the key, Canberra, is a totally plausible distractor. Now this is a question that fairly and effectively tests your geography knowledge.
This just goes to show you that a multiple-choice question isn't just some lazy way to make a test. When it's done right, it's a precise, thoughtful, and finely tuned instrument for figuring out what someone truly understands.
And that's really the big idea here. Now that you're in on the secrets, you'll never look at a multiple-choice question the same way again. You won't just see a question. You'll see the intent, you'll see the structure, and you'll see the science behind its design.